Section 59 inquiry into reports of racial bias against black doctors by medical aid schemes has found that 3 medical aid schemes, Discovery, Healthcare, Governed Employees Medical Scheme and Med Scheme, have unfairly discriminated against black medical practitioners. The investigation was launched after a complaint from the members of the National Healthcare Professional Association and Solutionist Thinkers. Joining me now to talk about this is the chairperson of the Solutionist Thinkers Group, Thembeka Ngcukaitobi, as well as the Assistant General Manager for the Public Servants Association, Ruben Malika. Good evening to both of you, and thank you very much for joining us tonight on the Newsfeed Late Night. Thembeka, I will start with you. Your organization, Solutionist Thinkers, came about in 2019 April because of the cry of the many doctors who were saying we cannot survive the level of harassment and the pressure and the crippling pressure, particularly being placed on our practices. Some of them actually succumbed to that pressure, committed suicide. Some of them lost their practices. Some of them, even as we speak, their kids are unable to go to school. And you are calling for some kind of an inquiry into what is the conduct of medical aid schemes. Do you believe that this preliminary report or interim report now provides the basis to which stakeholders in the sector can engage on a constructive way going forward on how to better this situation?
Good evening, Thabo, and thank you very much for welcoming us. And yes, we believe strongly that there is something that can be done after all the recommendations that have been on the outcome of the release of the interim report.
Now, you had initially thought that what needs to happen is to deal with the discrepancies that need to be addressed in the Section 59 of the Medical Aid Schemes Act. Does this report speak to those issues?
Yes, Thabo, the report really spoke to everything that we have mentioned. The report was very detailed, and the report covered every aspect of our submission to the inquiry. And because of the outcomes and the reliability of the report, we are very excited, and we definitely believe and have confidence that this is going to turn around for the good for all the healthcare practitioners that have been exploited or victimized by medical aid.
Right. Now you've got, of course, a CMS, which was part of calling out this inquiry and this investigation. And they are tasked with a very important task to ensure that the contributions of members do not go into fraud, do not go into waste, and do not go into abuse. Something that really is a reality in South Africa and I suppose in other parts of the world. How do you suggest that that work would still be in place and enhanced, but also these issues that are being raised by this report can be addressed? And what is the work that needs to happen between healthcare practitioners, black ones in particular, and medical aid schemes?
Thabo, we are expecting the implementation of the recommendations of the outcome from the report. So we want to see the implementation as fast as possible, because once we are given a chance to address the issue amongst ourselves with medical aids, there are chances of mending our relationship. But however, we want everything to be implemented according to the recommendations. And we are grateful that the panel suggested that, actually recommended that CMS must appoint a mediator between us and the medical aids. And there's a lot that's going to come out, obviously, from the mediation.
Yeah. What is the level of mediation that you require? I mean, what do you envisage? I mean, does this report create some level of acrimony between yourself and the medical aids that you would need a mediator to come between?
Thabo, because we negotiated with medical aids, we engaged medical aids on different occasions on how we are wishing to address our issues. So obviously what we are looking for is the agreement on how is Section 59 going to be implemented moving forward without exploiting our rights and our ethics. So that's the first expectation that we would have expect from this mediation. And another thing that we are expecting from the mediation is obviously how do we then speak about compensation from what we have lost? Because financially, we have lost so much. Emotionally, we are no longer stable. You see us talking or walking, you think we are normal. We are not at all. We've been wounded, especially when it comes to discrimination during this time, when our government has fought so much to liberate us, but we are still going through this. Right. So we are really looking at...
Let me bring in the Assistant General Manager of the Public Service Association. Now, Ruben, one of the findings coming out of this report is that government employees' medical scheme is actually part of those being fingered, about 80% more likely to find adversely against black practitioners. Now, a majority of your members are contributors to that medical aid scheme. And I suppose the question on many people's minds is to say, well, this is the same scheme that tried to block the release of this report. What exactly were they trying to cover?
Yeah, thank you very much, Thabo, and good evening to the viewers. Look, first of all, let me state and register our main concern as PSA on the report itself. We are of the view that there is no amount of discrimination or racial bias that can be tolerated at this point in time, especially when you talk about GEMS. GEMS was formed by the workers themselves. It was a resolution of negotiations in the PSCBC that formed GEMS. So out of what has happened today with this report, it now obviously demands that this report must go back to also be tabled in the PSCBC, where the parties in the PSCBC that form GEMS can debate and also articulate what could be the way forward in terms of GEMS. Because 80 to 90% of GEMS members and beneficiaries are actually African people and black people. So we cannot, at this point in time, allow GEMS to be embroiled in any kind of racial biasness. Therefore, we are calling, and we are going to actually call tomorrow that the PSCBC convene as soon as possible, and GEMS must appear before the PSCBC and explain why such racial bias and why such discrimination against black people and African people.
Now, at the onset of this inquiry, the ANC had also called for the Human Rights Commission to conduct some level of inquiry into this particular matter, because, of course, Section 59 does not have the kind of power that a Human Rights Commission would possibly have, so that those who are found to be in this kind of conduct actually held guilty. But not only that, that a strong message is sent to them that this or any level of discrimination will not be tolerated in this country. What action is the PSA saying should now be taken?
Yeah, look, we don't want to preempt what will be the outcome of debates in the PSCBC. But we believe that once that matter can be tabled in the bargaining council, which is the PSCBC, we see the report, the parties themselves decide of what is the future of GEMS. Remember, we already have some sort of a task team, an ad hoc task team that deals with matters of GEMS. One of the issues that concerns members out there as we speak right now is the increase of subscription fee that has taken place when people do not actually got their adjustment in terms of salary adjustment. So besides that, there are a lot of efficiency and efficacy that are being debated in the PSCBC surrounding GEMS. So out of this report, it now demands that the parties out of that task team and broadly as PSCBC sit down, look at the report, and if it found that those conduct of racial biasness has been committed by GEMS, obviously we will call for harsher action, and obviously the board of GEMS and its management will have to account to us in the PSCBC as the people that actually formed GEMS. Understand where are they taking this medical scheme that we formed with a view to ensure that majority of public servants can access medical aid But any kind of this conduct cannot be tolerated.
Now, Noefes, back to you. I mean, one of the key observations from this particular panel was around the issue of claims that are taken on review and the fairness of that particular process, and saying there is prejudice kind of already in that system and how it's done. For example, when claims against doctors are being raised, doctors are not given an opportunity to represent their side of the story, but even the amount that is going to be pulled back, doctors are not given a say in what that amount is going to be. What do you make of that recommendation coming from the panel to say that particular the procedural fairness has got to be addressed? All right, Noefes, are you there? All right, I think we've lost her there on the line. All right, Ruben, let's go back. What do you think are the legislative approaches that should be taken here in terms of legislature to and change in policy that certainly will force medical aid schemes, particularly GEMS, to be fair in their practice?
Look, going back to the question that you just posed to Norma FSA regarding the claims that goes into GEMS, that from time to time you'll get rejected and later on be able to resolve it. Those are the kind of challenges that we have been experiencing, but we were able to resolve upon receiving some of those complaints from members that I'm in the hospital, I've got this benefit, it has been rejected, and we intervene. Those are the kind of processes and procedures that we need to outline so that it doesn't become a bottleneck that from time to time would require intervention of unions or interventions of a particular body for GEMS to make sure that whatever benefit the person is entitled to should not be having any kind of dispute or delay. So those are the efficiencies that we are going to address, coming also from the report that has been issued today, to ensure that going forward, we don't want to see any member who's going to find difficulties when you have to do any kind of medical procedure or get any medication from a pharmacist, and we are told that GEMS was declining or was refusing any kind of service. Yeah. These are the matters that we have to deal with head on going forward.
Many people might say then, we understand what the doctors are calling for, but the role also of CMS is to ensure that there are no illegal claims that actually pass through. Again, to protect the contributions of your members, to ensure that those who do claim are actually making legitimate claims. So it is some kind of a balancing act. What needs to go into this equation that will ensure that that aspect of things wins, but also the doctors actually do get what they deserve to be getting?
Look, first of all, there's a fraud, what we call contracted company by GEMS that looks into those details of saying what could be the potential fraud claim. We know that sometimes you'll find that a member is in Gauteng and receives an SMS that is hospitalized in KZN for a particular procedure. Those are kind of frauds that happens from time to time. And we believe that at this point in time, GEMS has got enough capacity to deal with those kind of frauds. But you cannot have a kind of a profiling of saying that the likelihood of this kind of frauds can be committed by a particular race. That cannot be tolerated. That cannot be acceptable. However, we know that from time to time, on quarterly basis, we get reports from GEMS on the kind of frauds that is being committed and what is the likelihood of frauds that are could be. Like, for instance, we know that sometimes, kind of frauds that we are aware, people would be hospitalized, and because of the kind of insurances that they have, then they receive cash, and without actually really having any kind of necessity to be hospitalized. So those are kind of frauds that takes place, and GEMS is aware and can deal with those kind of things.
All right, appreciate your time. Ruben Malika is Assistant General Manager for the Public Servants Association. Also spoke to the chairperson for the Solutionist Thinkers Group, Thembeka Ngcukaitobi, here on the Newsfeed Late Night.